stop where we all start off. No matter how old you are, what generation you are, no matter what your future looks like, all of us are going to start off single. Revelation right there. But here's the thing. Did you know that this was a study in 2018? I believe it's probably higher than this now, just personally. But did you know that the majority of American adults are single? That 50.2% of American adults are single. But in church, all we talk about is married people. And what's happened is we have even subconsciously, sometimes it's overt, a lot of times it's subconscious, we have started to act like if you are single or if you're not married, that God must view you as lesser, that you must not be able to accomplish the goal that he has for you or the purpose that he has for you. And what can happen is a lot of good, faithful Christian people will get into the wrong relationship because they feel so much pressure. And so instead of making sure that they're whole when they're single, they say, well, I got to get in a relationship for God to use me, and it causes all these problems. But I just want to let you know, if you're a part of that 50% that's in here today, if you're watching online, that you are not lesser than, that you are not part of a human, that you are not 50%, that God is going to use you right now, that he has a purpose for your life, a destiny for your life, a calling for your life. You are 100% in Christ. You don't have to wait for another person. Yes, another person can compliment you, but another person will not complete you. Oh, I'm going to say that. I'm preaching this service. Another person can compliment you. A boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife will compliment you, but they will not complete you. Only Jesus can complete you. And so don't feel discouraged and don't feel like you don't belong because you're single right now. Paul actually tells us in 1 Corinthians, and I'm going to read several times from 1 Corinthians today, and I want to give you just a little context. The Corinthian church exploded. And they were seeing all these new people come to Christ, and we're seeing a ton of new people come to Christ here at Oasis. But what happened is Corinth was kind of like the Vegas back then. And so a lot of the people who were getting saved had been involved in the sex industry. Many of them were even temple prostitutes where someone would pay them and they would have sex in the temple as a form of worship to an idol. And so what happened is they were all getting saved, but they didn't have any knowledge of what God wants their relationships to look like. And Paul had to go back and be like, whoa, let's hold up now. I know y'all prophesying and you're speaking in tongues and all, but you need to correct a few little things real quick. And so 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 8 says this, but I say to the unmarried and to the widows, it is good for them if they remain even as I am. Paul was single, so he's saying it's good if they remain single. Now, I already know some of you are like, Pastor, that is not my word. I get behind me, Satan, that I do not receive. But I say that because Paul was one of the greatest Christians that has ever lived. Yes, he had mistakes. Yes, he seemed like he was a pretty grumpy guy. It seemed like if you read through his writings and different things, might be why he was single, just saying, But he wrote most of the New Testament. He went on missionary journeys to take the gospel to Europe and take the gospel to Asia and started churches and sent out people like Timothy and all these different ones, literally changed the world as a single man. And so he's encouraging them to say, hey, if you're single right now, don't think that you're lesser than. I would even wish that you would stay like I am. And the reason he said that, and I'm going to just let you know real quick, is because you can do more when you're single. Let's just get real practical for a moment. Being single, you have more flexibility. When I was single, when I really first got out on my own, when I was about 20 years old, I moved to Arkansas. I was single. I was living on my own, all these different things. And there were things that I needed to get worked out, and I could because I was single. I could go to the gym at 10 o'clock at night. I could hang out with my friends all the time. I could buy the cheapest food and not go out to eat because I wanted to save money. I wasn't taking nobody on a date. It's like I gotta get that money right now. But I could travel. I could go on missions trips. I could go and speak at events. I could sleep on people's couches. They'd invite me to come preach, and they're like, well, we can't really put you in a hotel. I was like, oh, I'll sleep on your couch. I'm not going to sleep on the couch with my wife. I'm not going to sleep on the floor with my wife. So when I was single, there were things that I could accomplish. There were things that I could do. And let me just burst your bubble if you think that getting married is going to simplify your life. Let me just go ahead and burst. That was all the married people right there. Let me just I'm just trying to help somebody here today. I know. Come on. I know. I'm a pick on the guys a lot because that's safe for me. But I know a lot of you like, man, she's gonna cook for me and she's gonna balance my budget. She's gonna clean my stinky socks, and maybe, but it might be you cleaning the stinky socks, and it might. Who knows? She might be the one making the money, and you might be at home doing the cleaning. Come on, somebody. Like, but it's gonna be so easy when I get. No, it's not. Because now you don't just got to worry about your credit. You got to worry about both y'all's credit. Now it's not just when you get sick, it's when both y'all get sick. Now it's not just, oh, my car needs to be serviced. Oh, now it's both of our car needs to be serviced. Come on. This is just real life practical advice. And so I want to encourage you that if you are single right now, you need to realize that this is the simplest time in your life. And this is the time when you need to pursue what God has called you to pursue. This is the time that you need to figure out what God has created you to do and begin to walk in it, begin to practice it. You need to begin to run after God like never before. When I was single and again in that stage when I was living on my own, I began to do practical things like get ready for a spouse. I began to lose some weight. I began to work on my credit. I started to save money. But that's also when I'd spend a lot of time developing my preaching and developing my study life and developing all these different things. And if I hadn't done that then, I don't think I'd be in the place I am now. Y'all want to know how long I sat down to write this message? An hour. That's how long I sat down I'm going to write a message. The rest had to be in my memory, my Bible knowledge. It had to be in what I've gone through before. It had to be in what I've studied before. It had to be when I was rocking a baby in the NICU. It had to be while I was wiping my grown boy's butt that is worse than mine. If you catch my drift, he got to start going to the bathroom himself. But I couldn't, there's things I don't have time to learn right now. And I wouldn't be able to walk in my purpose if I waited until now to learn how to do it. And so there are skill sets, there are things that you need to learn now before you get in a relationship. And I'm just giving you some little, this is just a little appetizer this week. I'm just giving you some little teasers. I've said this before, and I'll probably say it several times throughout this series, that there are a lot of problems that people call marriage issues that are not marriage issues. They're single people issues. Marriage issues is I leave the beard hair in the sink and my wife don't like it. Marriage issues is I didn't know how much that thing cost that we agreed to buy. I didn't realize it was that much until I saw, okay, no. But your credit, your crippling debt, that's a single people issue. Your lust issue, that's a single people issue. Ooh. It's going to get tight here for a second. Don't go into them, we just can't make it through this. No, you can't make it through this. This is something that you should have figured out when you were single. You should have figured out when you were on your own. And I'm not saying you can't figure it out now. No, there's grace. And please don't think, well, I got to be single again. No. That's not what I'm trying to say. Some of y'all, Pastor, does that mean, is that permission from you? Is that what you're, no. If you got this, you're in it now. You're in it now. That's right. Too late. But there are things that you got to figure out. You got to figure out what God's called you to do. Don't wait around for a person to tell you what God's called you to do. Don't wait around for somebody when they may know what they're called to do, and if you don't know, you're going to say, well, I guess my calling's the same as their calling. Just because you're going to be married doesn't mean your calling's going to be the same. Doesn't mean your purpose is going to be the same. And so you'll let feelings and romance and wanting to feel loved by somebody change the course that God has for your life. So we're all single. We start out single, and there's things we need to take care of while we're single. And then the second thing, and this is really where the church, I feel like, is super silent. The second step, if we choose to go into a dating relationship, and before I get there, I just want to say this. I kind of missed this in the first section, that there are some people where you are choosing to be single. There are some people where you have made a decision for a season or maybe for a lifetime to be single. Now, that was not my calling. Bless you, but that was not my calling. But there's some people, and we shouldn't discount those people, because I already talked about Paul, but what about John the Baptist? You can't be a voice crying out in the wilderness eating locusts with your wife at home being like, you ate what for lunch? What is in your teeth? But I preach. I don't care who you preach. What are you wearing right now? People saw you wearing that. Come on, some of you husbands, you know what I'm talking about. You can't be out in the wilderness preaching for weeks at a time when you got kids at home that need to be taken care of. And I'm not discounting I'm a family man. I have 2 children now. I hope to have more in the future. But I'm just saying it's different seasons and it's different callings. What about someone like Anna who wasn't married but spent time in prayer and intercession and almost spent her entire life in the temple glorifying God? You think she was lesser than because she didn't have a husband? You think she was? No. She said, I'm able, maybe not everybody's able to do this. You got to, okay, prayer meeting's over. Yeah, you got to get your kids to bed. You got to go do baths. You got to, no, well, I'm good. So I'm going to just stay here. So there's callings, and it's just as important to God. It's just as important to God.